My name is Vasiliki Katrivanu. I was born and raised in Greece. I studied process work 11 years, not for the whole time. I mean, I lived in the States for 11 years. I studied process work, and then I went to BSU and I did a BA in International Studies and an MA in Conflict Resolution. And after 11 years, I went back to Greece, and the fate of life, I'll tell you as I go, brought me into the Greek parliament because of the situation in Greece. That I'm going to give a brief presentation before we go into more, just that people know the background. And while these 4 years I was responsible for human rights, like, for example, the rights of refugees and immigrants, LGBTQI people in Greece. We made the civil union during these years. We voted, which is great. Rights of prisoners, police violence, anti-racist struggles and stuff like that. So just to give you a brief or not, you have, okay. So I'll give you a little bit about Greece, the background, because it's important. It's not a regular time in Greece, okay, as many of you know. So from 2008, Greece goes through a huge crisis, financial crisis, where Greece still is in the financial, in this crisis. And this crisis starts with being financial, but really becomes political, institutional, social, existential crisis. And there's a lot of agony in all levels around it. So we are in this crisis. And we have a lot of unemployment, like 30% unemployment, 60% for young people. Wow. We have a lot of cuts in salaries and pensions. So that means there are families that the new adults go back to the family, cannot live by themselves. They cannot have a job, and they all stay and they use the pension of the grandparents because they're on unemployment. They're all unemployed. So you can see how horrible this is. There's no future for young people, and there is long unemployment for the others. So you got out from job, you don't know if you're ever going to find it and what kind of job you're going to find, So that's really tough on the spirit, not only on the finances, but everywhere. So, and there are cuts all over, health, education. So in this context of crisis, there is a disbelief to politics, disbelief to politicians, to big parties. The ties are loosening. And we have the movements of the squares. It's the time where people go out in the streets and in big numbers of people demonstrating, big clashes with the police constantly for years. Okay, maybe some of you remember. And in that time we have Syriza, which is a radical left party, and a coalition of smaller parties of the left, being involved in this movement in the squares, in the streets. And that also was one of the power of Syriza in the background. So Syriza says, austerity cannot go on like that, neither in Greece, neither in Europe. We have to renegotiate about it. We have to stop paying this debt. This debt that we have is huge and not viable. We cannot just live in misery. We're dying. We have to have our dignity, and we have to have our self-esteem as people, and we're going to fight and vote for us, and we're going to renegotiate the debt and change the everyday life of people, okay? So Syriza is a party for 4%, very small party. And we have elections. So we have the movement of the squares, and elections come 2012, May. Nobody believes Syriza takes 17%. And because we cannot make a government, we go to another election in June, like May the 1st, June the 2nd, and Syriza gets 27%. So imagine a small party of 4% goes to 27%. Because people say, fuck it, I'm going to change it. I'll give a chance to something else, to something new. That I cannot take it anymore, all right? And then, to make it short somehow, and in January 2015, Syriza becomes government. So he takes, the party takes 35.7% and becomes government. And it's the first time that we have like a left-wing party in Europe becoming government after the Second World War. Wow. So it's a huge thing, all right? There is a huge enthusiasm in people. We all remember the Greeks here. Lena Aslanidou tells me that for 6 months people are going into sessions and they're working about politics as their personal issues, okay? As if it's their lives. It's not like I've done my relation. It becomes personal. Like everybody watches TV who didn't watch before, read newspapers. There's a huge motivation that we can change things. And there are different efforts to change things symbolically and also practically. And all this time, for 6 months, we negotiate the debt. Okay, so you have Varoufakis and Tsipras in the TV, okay, headlines and all over, going and said to the European creditors, that cannot go on. This debt you cannot push us more into debt and to recession. You have to cut the debt. And we have to give people a better life. This cannot go. Thinking in the background that there's no way, if you really hard negotiate about it, you will win it. And you will win it because European creditors will be scared to keep Greece outside Europe, the Eurozone. Because if they keep Greece outside the Eurozone, that means that the whole European institution is going to dismantle. And also it's going to be very costly financially. But they are wrong. We are wrong as a government. That's our basic wrong, false estimation. European creditors are not afraid as we thought. So there is a huge blackmail. Either you go along and you sign another memorandum of austerity, the same, or you're going to be kicked out of the European zone and of the euro. And we're talking about a country that basically lives on tourism, has no infrastructure to live by itself, you know. So these were like, now that what I'm telling you, they're very traumatic moments, but it's not like, you know. And let's see.
Can I ask questions?
Yes, please, yes.
Can you just say, you just said there's no infrastructure because there's only tourism. Can you just say what that means?
Like, we don't have biomechania. I want a Greek industry. We don't have, my English is going, okay? We don't have industry, really. We don't have a development, you know.
So if you go out of the European Union, you lose your tourism, then nobody will
Not just the tourism, we don't have where to live on, so we have to borrow more money from somebody outside the European, Europe, like IMF or other countries that will give it with more expensive.
Oh, okay, right. You're depending on that money.
We're depending anyway. I mean,
you know, afloat.
U.S. is a independent country, has an economy that has potentials and growth. Greece doesn't.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you. So we are negotiating with the creditors, and there is an impasse. The creditor says, you know, either you're in and you sign or you're out. So Tsipras says, I'm going to give it to people. there is a referendum. So all the Europe says you have to vote yes for these measures in order to stay in Europe. All the news in the media in Greece says you have to vote yes. Everybody from the old political system says you have to vote yes, otherwise you're going to be kicked outside Europe. Tsipras says, I'm not saying that I will be outside Europe, but I want a stronger voice to negotiate better. So there is this, banks are closing down, there is a war, okay? And in this atmosphere of war, you could feel the silence in people, but something was boiling. Greek people go ahead and say, fuck it, one more time, and vote 62% no. No to this memorandum. No to more austerity, okay? This was a sense of dignity and of self, say a word? Determination, thank you. And it's one of the most dramatic polls. I mean, maybe you've seen that all over Europe. Yeah, it's one of the most dramatic moments because Tsipras goes back to the creditors, and the creditors tell, either Monday you sign or you're out of EU. Never mind what the Greek people said, never mind about democracy, what people want, never mind, market. Okay? So, and Tsipras says, okay, I cannot take this responsibility, I don't have the consensus from, and there's a lot of debate in the Greeks and everywhere, I know that, okay, I'm not going to go into it at the moment. But he signs, everything I'm saying, it's so politically charged that it's a whole discussion for every word. So, okay, bear with me. So, what happens is that he signs a new memorandum of austerity. Okay? This is it's a very dramatic moment. And because everything we were talking about we're going to do, we have to do the opposites. And the party of Syriza is split, half of it leaves, okay? Half of my colleague, my assistant, my team, half of it split. I mean, you were feeling it personally, like your friends, your colleagues, people don't talk to each other. It's a war zone. It's horrible. And it's very painful. And the most painful thing is you really don't have anything now to hope for. So Tsipras says I have to go elections again because I was elected with an agenda that says no more memorandums, and now I'm going to do memorandums of austerity, and I'm going to try to do it as better as possible, and also take care of the welfare system and education and stuff like that. So he goes for election and wins the elections again. Because people thought, he fought, somebody we can trust. Oh my God, time just goes. Okay, so he wins the elections again. Let's see what I should tell you now. And at this point, it's a drama, because now a party that was saying we're going to change the world is implementing the agenda exactly that it was fighting against. And this is excruciating, okay, for everybody. And people just say, if Syriza could not do it, there is Athena, there is no other alternative. So imagine that this is the spirit in Greece at the moment, because austerity goes on, recession goes on, things go. And at the same time, we have done some good things as civil union for LGBT, for gay couples, citizenship for second generation of immigrant kids, reform in prisons, more humane, different stuff that they're good. The refugees, welcoming the refugees, that was huge. The other government, the right-wing government before us, it was doing pogroms against the immigrants. And this government really received the immigrants. 1 million people crossed Greece in 2015, were received by Greeks, and inspired such solidarity in the Greek people that the Greek people were receiving them. Okay, and it's very crucial to have a government that gives the message to the people that we want to welcome these people instead giving the message of racist. Yeah.
Is Syriza losing ground in terms of its percentage of
Yeah, of course.
representation?
Of course.
Vasiliki, can you restate the questions? If you have questions, if you don't mind using the microphone.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So quickly, how I got into this thing. So Busher reminded me that a few years ago I was saying I'm never gonna go into politics. My family has a political background. My father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather were into politics. And I was an activist and a therapist, and I was trying in other ways to do things. But at that point, I remember that I was pulled to be involved. And I didn't know how, because it was irrational, you know. It was like I wanted to get involved, and I just had no idea how this would happen. And then there's this person that I'm connected from Syriza and says we're making this big list of people that are not Syriza, but they are from different directions, but that they are left. Do you want to be in? I said, yes. Okay, you were not expecting you're gonna get elected because it was 4%, Syriza 4%, okay? Right. Not Syriza 27%. So here comes many other people going into the lists like that to support the list. And they get elected. Either because there are women, either because the name starts from A, for all, you know. It's like people don't know. So young people get in, weird people get in. You can see it from the clothes. They are different. They're like they have jobs. They're real people. You know, they're not in politics their whole life. It's really another atmosphere. Okay, and nobody. All right, I'm gonna say a few things that I learned. So because I see time passes quickly. So one thing that I learned, and it's interesting to see, it's like when you are in a leadership position, when you're a politician, you are not a facilitator. You are not. You cannot speak for the other side too much, you're gonna get booed. Or I didn't do it well. But when you're in a leadership position, you have to speak deeply for your side, go into the essence, okay? Really talk but talk for one side well, because you are not facilitating two parts, you are one part. And the whole atmosphere is in a war, okay? And the moments people try to say, I can see this and that, they had very hard time. Okay.
That's interesting.
And in the end, you have to vote for one side. You cannot say, this is good, that's good. I can understand your point of view, but I'm going to vote for exactly the opposite. You are voting for exactly the opposite. So you take positions. That's it. And you decide. And you have to decide sometimes on the spot without having much time to think or to make X and Y or anything really. Okay. Or to even remember. So there are moments where you use your process work skills. For example, when you have meetings, you deeply hear, you acknowledge the other side, you speak deeply for what the other wants, you know, even deeper than the person is aware of, so that helps. But there are moments in the parliament where you have to step on one side and that's it and vote. You're an educator. You just not, it's good to be an educator, not just fight against the other. Try to educate. For example, that helped me a lot. When I was here, I worked in Newburgh High School.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and there was a lot of kids that I love and they were my group, but they were the racism that was there was incredible. We worked with Katya. And you said, okay, I have to have the basic meta skill that this group has to be with me and I have to teach, but I have to change the attitudes. So you are teaching, you are educating, okay? I remember when we were working on the civil union for gay couples. First of all, we had to educate our own MPs, Syriza MPs, okay? I remember one that was telling me that, I'm a doctor and I have done a research that if you give a kid to a gay couple before the kid is 5 years old, the kid is going to be bipolar. So I told her, there is no such research, and for your own sake, just don't say it publicly. And we can talk about it. So you had really to educate and create consensus. And until we were working 3 years to get to the point inside the party. Not to mention what was happening outside the party. The homophobia so we did groups where people in the party, where people can talk and more personally, and I remember, and because these were interesting discussions. In one we brought also Lena and Alexandra as my scientific assistants. I remember.
And who are they? Maybe some people don't know who they are.
They are a group. They're process work teachers in Greece and colleagues. Yeah. And when we passed the civil union, there were so many people in the balconies in Parliament, I remember, and they kissed. And the whole Parliament was shocked. So imagine, a Greek Parliament is a very conservative, formal, old-fashioned Parliament. They don't see a kiss between a heterosexual couple by any way, not to mention a gay couple in that while. And it was really nice to be able to create this kind of atmosphere. And thanks to Heiko, I could speak about transgender issues. And we called transgender people in the parliament. And we had not group process, but forums. And these were, you see, it's crucial things that one can do. Okay, going. The role of when you are in a leadership position that is heavy and when the field is very polarized, you become completely the role. I, after 20 years of training in psychology and process work, couldn't see myself outside the role. The role possessed me. Really. My brain, I gained weight, I became very serious. Constantly, all right? It's really, and you think you're going to save the world. So you are into the savior mode, okay? Many therapists know that. And that's your goal constantly. You think about this, like vacations. In vacations, you deal with issues. There's no this. So it's really crucial to have at least an experience of life before, if not during, that reminds you that life also has this other aspect, It's not just this. So I'm freaking out thinking of all these politicians that started just being politicians and never had an experience of life outside politics, it's horrific for a human being, basically, and for what this human being brings. Okay. Mindell, now we had a conversation recently about this possession and obsession with the role, says this is also good because the world needs change and you are dreamed up to change it and the role possesses you. It doesn't care about your health, about your personal life, about anything. It will just eat you up in order to do something. That's an interesting thought. I'm just bringing thoughts around, okay? So, you have to bring in your personal powers, for example. If you think the role is just like A, B, C, D, and you try to fit in, You cannot do it, by the way. Meaning, other people were very good in politics because they grew into them, like they have been all their lives in politics, or they were lawyers, okay? What was I? I was an activist and a therapist. So what were my skills and powers? I could go into the field, I could go into prisons, detention centers, I could meet with people, go where they live, and connect and see the situation. And from that point, I got inspired. Then I could understand the laws because the laws were like people for me at that point. They were not just Article 250, you know. And then I could have an impact because I could work. I could talk with examples, and not just and I could be inspired by going there, and I could connect with people. So you have to really do it the way you can fill up a role. Okay, if I was trying to be a lawyer, by the way, I was in the law school and I quit because I couldn't stand it. And then life brought it again back. I had to learn many laws. I was not good at it. That's not my strength. You cannot imitate. You have to be, like I did so many sessions, supervisions with Arnie to speak personally, because for years you cannot just say the political jargon and, like what you're supposed to say. You have also to bring in yourself. Otherwise, it's suffocating. It's bad for your health. So you have to speak also personally. And that's a huge thing because it breaks the culture. For example, I remember once there was like a discussion on a very serious bill on police reform. And there was this woman speaking, and there were all these men around from the other parties telling her, you cannot finish, shall we help you to finish? Oh, you have problems finishing. Sexual insinuations, okay? So I had to break the conversation, and say, but also break the conversation about the law, okay, which was very important, okay, police reform, and say, I'm not going to speak about the law. I'm saying that you cannot have this the sexism in the room is not like, you cannot speak to a colleague like that with such sexism. And then people thought that I was talking about sex because they don't know the word sexism. So I'm just telling you like how hard is these simple things, okay? So you have to explain that it's not about sex and turning you on. It's about putting the woman down. All right. Okay. It was great to have a team. You cannot do it by yourself. You have to have a team. And my boyfriend was one of the members of my team. He had experience. He helped me a lot. He's a journalist. I'm grateful to him. And then I have two other colleagues that they were bringing other strengths than mine. But I was trusting them. And then they have to check your back. You are exposed the whole time. You're going to make mistakes no matter what. You're going to be hated no matter what. It's given. And you need some protection and somebody to take care of your back, okay? And because you are dealing with laws and consensuality things and you have to deliver and the pressure is constant and you don't have time even to feel your body or to think, or it's hard. And sometimes I was talking with Arnie in supervisions also and said many people want to commit suicide, many politicians. It's lonely and it's suffocating and you want to leave somehow, this thing. So I couldn't do it too much, but I had some sessions and supervisions and there was a space where I could remember my vision and my dreams, and that was really taking me, like giving me some oomph to go and do more. All right, you have really to try to maintain your friendship, and it's a discipline thing. It's hard, but you have to do it because otherwise it's so lonely. Okay, you have to play and try to laugh. These are important. Suffering. You cannot show suffering. You can show anger. Your pain can be canalized by anger. But if you show suffering, you will accused of being weak or manipulative. Tsipras, during the negotiation, had an herpes. How you call it?
Mustache.
Herpes.
Herpes. And people were saying, come on, he just makes a makeup to show that he suffered. You know? Hillary was sick. And they said, and she told, I have to power, how do you say? Power through. You cannot be like a person who suffers or is a human being or anything. All right. Okay, shortly. So you have to understand there that it's your role. People are projecting into your role. It's not that they hate you personally. It's like every role, it's a group process. You know, every role, it's a debate and a group process, and people are going to project cracks. Things are not changing quickly. They are changing in small portions and in the cracks. So you have to be very patient and small changes and lots of effort. I remember a small example. We had a right-wing minister of justice, and we wanted to put in a paragraph that says that victims of racist violence are also LGBTQI people. We meet with him, we tell him that he doesn't understand, he cannot get it. We call transgender people in the parliament and we connect them. And then this transgender person says to him, I want to see you privately. And he goes to his office, and for whatever reason, he tells him, you know, that she tells him, I'm very sorry, that that is my English, it's not mine. That, you know, this is how I grew up, and you know, how I have been humiliated for this and stuff. And the guy, just something in him moves. We don't know what and why, you know. And he says, okay, I'm going to change the law. I'm going to put it in.
Wow.
We didn't believe it. He's an old right-wing judge. Okay? And then you have to believe that people can change. All right? Like another moment, I believe I was like in Syriza group, and we were doing a bill about drug. It was the first bill that I was going to present. Okay? And I have this person who is against me. So I tell him, you know, I don't mind if you have a different opinion. I just want your emotional support. Everybody in the group says, you mean his political support? They haven't heard the word emotional support. I say, no, the emotional support. Well, he talks that he doesn't hate me, and then that he takes care of me also. So the guy did it, got it. And in the night, he calls me after we had the process. Says, do you need something from me? And he's a really tough guy, I'm telling you. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's success. But you don't know if you just try, you know. I didn't think that, you know, I said, give me your emotional support here. All right, resignation. So when I went back to elections with the memorandum, I thought, okay, we have to try and see if we can do something different in these horrible conditions with the memorandum while the creditors are monitoring us. And I felt in the end that we couldn't do much. And we had to vote again for measures that were bad measures, objectively. Okay? And in the last time, we have to vote for the last thing that I was present, to vote for a super fund where much of the Greek assets are going to go under, like ports and forests and archaeological places. And private, to get private, okay, for 99 years. So I said, okay, I voted the week before for cuts in salaries, bad, and for cuts in pensions, not salaries, pensions, very bad, excruciating. Let's say the economy goes better, we can change this law. But this other law, 99 years, we cannot change. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna take it with me in my consciousness. So feeling split completely because I liked the job and I was doing well in that and I enjoyed it and it was all my passion in it. I voted against and I resigned. And that was completely a death for me. Like, I wanted to die, things had no meaning, all my vision died, or my family myth died, everything. It was like horrible. And my friends supported me, like all kinds of support, and invited me to the States, and just laughed, and laughed saved me. Yeah. Friends laughed. I'm very, yeah. And also, spirit. I think spirit gets you in, spirit gets you out. And you have to follow what keeps your spirit alive. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is just stay long enough where your spirit dies. And something else, maybe I will leave time for people.